through the tunnel since me and you and Mike went out for when Aqua took us out.
Yeah. I went out Saturday for a little bit. We'll probably go out again this weekend, but I cooked Friday night. Took me 2 days to get prepped. I had ribs and chicken breasts and coleslaw and baked beans. Open up the Public Service Committee for Tuesday, September 26, 2023. It's now a little after 6 here at the Robert E. Jones Municipal Building. Roll call, please.
Alderman Sherry Pickering.
Here.
Eve Ludwig.
Present.
Tricia Teague.
Present.
Robert Williams.
Present.
Darren York.
Here.
John Cooper.
Here.
Chairman Rick Strebe.
Here.
7 present.
7 present, thank you. What's item number 2, approval of minutes for 8/22/23. I will need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any questions on the minutes for 8/22/23? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 3, approval of the agenda. We have an item that's going to be amended, item 15B. And the problem is they put Danville Stadium in instead of Danville Area Community College in the paperwork. So that will be changed this evening as well as for next week's full council. So with the change, I will need a motion and a second to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. What's this item number 4, audience comments?
Did anyone wish to speak this evening? Okay.
Anybody? All right, thank you. Chairman's comments, I don't have any, just hope we get a lot of rain. I don't know if you guys have seen it or not, but the lake's down quite a bit, so. Puts us 6, approval of payrolls for 9/22/23. Yep, I'm sorry.
We got it.
I'll need a motion and a second to approve the payrolls.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any questions on the payrolls for 9/22/23? If not, roll call, please.
Vice Chairman Pickering.
Yes.
Alderman Ludwig.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
York.
Yes.
Cooper.
Yes.
Strebe.
Yes.
7 yes.
Yes, thank you. Puts us to item number 7, approve vouchers payable. We have a special run for 9/25/23 and the regular run for 9/26/23. I'll need a motion and a second to approve the vouchers payables.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any questions on the vouchers payable? Not, roll call, please.
Alderman Ludwig.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
York.
Yes.
Cooper.
Yes.
Pickering.
Yes.
Strebe.
Yes.
7 yes.
Yes, thank you. Puts us item number 8, City Clerk's report, Lisa Munson, and items of information.
Thank you, Chairman. Staff is continuing to work on the annual records disposal with each division. It takes a while for everybody to get all of that paperwork together, and then we'll call the shredding company and get those records shredded. We're working on the annual meeting schedule and the FOIA directory. Finally received the proof from the codifier. That's the American Legal Company that handles our code of ordinances. And I hope to have that supplement updated on the website by the end of next week from that company. Deputy Clerk Hahn has received a $600 scholarship, and she will use that towards the Municipal Clerks Institute in October. And the office handled 27 FOIAs and 26 miscellaneous licenses and permits within the last month. Also, we're continuing transferring ordinances into the record books, and I wanted to thank Rob Dietzen in the sign shop. He's been making the lettering for the spine of those books. We were able to save a lot of money with having him do that for us, so we really appreciate that. That's all I have.
Is there any questions for Lisa? Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Puts us in number 9, finance. Ms. Macy's not here this evening, but Kathy Corson will be giving us the items of information, risk management and personnel monthly report. But 9A is a resolution approving the safety training and the compliance software renewal and additional online training software for Velocity EHS and authorizing a budget amendment to fiscal year 2023-2024 finance number 11 budget. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on 9A's resolution? No. If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Teague,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Streebing,
Yes.
7 yes.
Yes, thank you. Number 9B and C we'll take together because they both have to do with the same Treasury Division. 9B is a resolution authorizing advisory and accounting services. 9C is a resolution authorizing a budget amendment to fiscal year 2023 through 2024 Treasury Division 16 budget. Is there any questions on 9B or C? Oh, I will make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on 9B and C?
Yeah, what are we doing here with this?
As you all know, unfortunately, when former Treasurer Wilson left, we were almost a year behind in bank reconciliations and continued to be behind. And Comptroller Massey and her team worked really hard to get us caught up. They got us caught up through 2022. Now we need to get 2022 to 2023 done. So this would allow us to hire an outside service to help us get caught up, and then also to do training with our treasurer so that we could be in good shape moving forward.
Any time frame on when you think it'll be caught up?
We anticipate that we would be able to be done by December.
I guess it's a necessary evil is what I'm, okay.
Yes, Alderman, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think I covered that here about, 3 or 4 weeks ago about the problems we had with it. So this will get us caught up. It's going to cost us, but we're going to have to do it.
And any money that is not spent, of course, will go back to the general fund.
Is there any other questions on 9B and C? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Streebing,
Yes.
7 yes.
And yes, thank you. Items of information, and Miss Kathy Corson will go items of information, risk management monthly report, and personnel monthly report. Kathy?
Good evening. In your packets, you should have my monthly report and also the payroll personnel's monthly report as well. I forgot to grab a copy from her or ask her if there was anything that she wanted me to tell you tonight. But if there is something you have a question on the payroll report, let me know. I still might be able to go ahead and answer that as well. But otherwise, on my HR risk management report, with the health insurance holding steady, I do kind of want to give a heads up. Unfortunately, everything that I'm kind of foreseeing when you're reading about it, inflation is taking its toll on premiums for health insurance. So I'm kind of anticipating we are going to see an increase this year, besides the fact that we are seeing some higher utilization this year on our own usage as well, which also helps drive, unfortunately, our premiums too. So for workers' compensation claims in the month of August, we did have 7 workers' comp claims that were submitted. 4 did require treatment and 2 did have some lost time with it. The others that did not require any treatment, we do ask that employees still go ahead and complete a form if they have an injury, even if they don't seek medical attention. This way we can go back and audit these periodically, kind of determine, was this a preventable incident? If it was, how can we make sure it doesn't happen again? So that's just one of the ways that we try to keep that in line and make sure that we're getting the correct equipment for them to use and using the correct personal protective equipment when they're working. With our liability claims, we only had 2 that were submitted to me for the month of August. Both of those, another party was liable. Both parties have been billed so far. So just waiting for remittance from them. As I kind of touched on earlier, we are ramping up to start with the renewal process. That becomes the busy time for me when we start hitting that. So we'll be renewing all of our health, dental, vision, and life insurance policies, as well as liability and workers' comp. So those will be coming in the next month or so. With earlier this month, we also did have a Illinois Department of Labor OSHA surprise inspection at our fire department. Luckily, it was just for records, which I was very happy to provide them all of the 300 logs that they requested. So we got through that with flying colors, no issues or problems. So, but just love those, surprise inspections. So, any questions for me?
Any questions for Ms. Corson? Not, thank you, dear. Which is item number 10. The fire chief's out of the country, so Assistant Chief Darby will take care of items of information, the monthly status report, and the fire chief staff report. Chief, Assistant Chief?
I think the chief emailed you guys the packet. Easy on me this first meeting, but you guys have any questions about anything? Just a heads up, update on the truck. We're still waiting on equipment from other manufacturers to get to the truck manufacturer. So fire prevention duties start next week. We're doing 3 out of the 4 weeks. One of the weeks, District 118 is closed, so we won't be doing anything with District 118. Sorry, I'm just kind of scrolling through this. Other than that, we did have something come up, Chairman. There is a grant out there from IDPH. It's kind of a time-sensitive matter. We're looking if we could push this to City Council, to the full council. What it is for EMS training. The grant's up to $5,000, but the training could cost near $8,000, so we're looking at possibly if we can tackle that and see if you guys could maybe match the difference on whatever the difference is for the training.
That'll be fine. Just make sure you get it to us in a timely fashion so we can look it over on our home computers and things.
Okay.
I don't have a problem sending it to full council as long as we get that done.
Okay. I just kind of found out today, so, but other than that, that's really.
Usually if it's something for Public Works, I don't mind taking it. Mike doesn't, vice versa, because time's sensitive. So as long as we get it and are notified and enough time we can study it at home, we're good with it.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Assistant Chief Darby? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item number 11, Human Relations, Sandra Finch, Administrator, items of information, and her monthly status report.
Good evening, everyone. From the period of August 22nd to September 18th, the office handled 22 complaints. The new complaints consisted of 1 police complaint, 1 employment complaint, 2 complaints against other city employees, 4 housing complaints, and 1 public accommodation complaint. For the other cases that are still open, 7 police complaints, 3 employment complaints, 1 complaint against other city employee, and 1 housing complaint, and 1 public accommodation complaint. That's a lot of complaints, 22 complaints. Do you have any questions?
I do. On your housing complaints, could you go into any kind of detail with those to let us know what they were about?
Basically, with the complaints that were closed this period, it involved mediation between the landlord and the tenant, and in maybe a couple of cases, sometimes the tenant, I'm gonna start with the tenant first. Sometimes the tenant would come to my office and want to file a complaint against the landlord just to get things done in terms of code enforcement issue. But before that happened, it's almost like the tenant and landlord had some type of disagreement. So one way to get back at the landlord is to come and file a complaint. That's one scenario. The other 2 scenario is really based on the landlord really, to me, in my opinion, when a tenant files a complaint, a code enforcement complaint, the landlord, and I try to mediate, and I will mediate the situation and try to get the landlord to see, okay, work with the tenant to try to get this resolved. And in some cases, after talking to the landlord, the next thing I know, the tenant is receiving a notice to vacate, not an eviction notice, a notice to vacate. And because there's a difference, because like we've been talking about before, when there's no lease, they go from month to month.
Right.
So now the landlord has the power, if they don't want you filing a code enforcement complaint, they will then issue a notice to vacate. So that is what happened probably with 2 of these cases. Now, with one of those 2 cases, they did go to court, and I do need to talk to inspection about what was the outcome of that case, because when I talked to the landlord, I felt like the landlord should have worked with the tenant, and the landlord didn't. So right now, I just need to get the outcome of that case, whether or not the judge decided to rule in favor of the tenant.
Thank you.
Is there any questions for Ms. Houston?
Finch, my husband said Finch.
I'm sorry, dear.
I'm just, my husband gets upset when people call me Finch in Houston, okay?
I'm very sorry.
That's all I have, thank you.
Okay, we're going to item number 12, technology. I can't get in any trouble with this one because Agno Sylvia is not here tonight. He's got his monthly status report that he sent to everybody. If you got any questions, the mayor will try to answer them. Any questions for the mayor on his report that he sent? All right, if not, puts us to item number 13, legal, James L. Simon, corporate counsel, items of information and his statistical report.
You all received my shortened memo as well as a summary report per your request. In terms of what's happening in legal, I've mentioned several times in our meetings that we are shifting from Excella to CitizenServe, which is a more comprehensive platform. We did run into a couple of glitches with the property maintenance code enforcement software. They rely on Google Maps, and for some reason, Google Maps around here is not that accurate. I can attest that. If nothing else, try to find my house on Google Maps and you won't find it. It doesn't exist. So what we're doing and what we have done is asked them to swap out the Google Maps software and insert the GIS software, which is dead bang accurate. And we had to pay them a little extra because this is something completely different. And they are 2 weeks into making the swap out. It's not just simply deleting one thing and inserting the other. They have to make their software compatible to the way GIS is structured. The nice part about GIS is there are multiple layers, and you can put different, our inspectors can display different information. The other thing that GIS provides is it helps them it's also a wayfinding where Google Maps, because of its inaccuracies, isn't a satisfactory wayfinding. Hopefully by end of next week, they'll give us an idea how much longer they're going to need. They quoted us, 5-6 weeks to make the conversion, but they'll give us a stronger message. We expect a full conversion, and they've been very accommodating working with us. So we're getting there, where we'll be up to full speed on that, not too distant future. We're also have begun work on shifting rental registration through CitizenServe software. So a landlord, whether it's property they own or property of somebody else's that they manage, they can go online and see a list of all the properties that they are responsible for, owned or managed. And when it comes to registration in December, all they have to do is go down the properties and click the word, I think it's register. The neat part about it is, let's say they've sold a property, if they won't register that because they don't own it anymore, why pay a fee on something you don't own? That property, when they close out, when they're done and they close out and have paid for their registrations, that property that isn't collected as registered moves to another part of the software. So next year, in 2024 December, they start to register and they pull up their properties. Those that were not registered from the prior year won't show up. I've thrown them a couple of curveballs And I'm meeting with their contact on Thursday to resolve what happens if that property is sold to another landlord. That landlord registers it. Now that property shows up under that landlord's name for having registered it. But we still, from what I understand, still have that property in that other folder. The reason the properties that are not registered go into another folder is they do contain information that our inspectors or other people in the city may want or need. But our problem is now we've got one property in two different places. So we're going to work on that, and I think they can tweak their software to do an automatic deletion of that property just by comparing addresses. So that's working well. And next week we will have a full dry run ready to play around with, and by mid-November we'll be ready, up and running, and getting ready for December. We're going to have to send out letters announcing this. We'll probably send out 2 letters, successive letters, just to keep reminding the landlords. Now's the time to shift over to electronic filing, no longer paper filing. It'll save them a lot of time. It'll save legal a lot of time. If it works, everyone should be happy and all. And I've got to talk to Ashton about putting rental registration, the link in a very, very prominent place on the city's website, hopefully the first page, because right now to find out something about property maintenance, you got to open the website, you got to go to city council, you've got to know that property maintenance comes up under this committee, so you got to go to that committee, and then you see the page for property maintenance. I assure you, most citizens, if not all of them, who aren't familiar with our website wouldn't know where to look. So we've got to resolve that. So that's all I have.
Is there any questions for Mr. Simon? Yes.
Go ahead. Okay. On the total violations, when you get the warning, is that 7 days to abate it before they get a $50 ticket?
Well, theoretically, but remember, they've got to cycle through their sectors unless they decide for some reason they want to go back. They may go back where garbage is scattered all over the place.
Right.
But a toter that hasn't been taken in, sometimes if they're in a nearby sector, they may cycle back or they may wait. That's the problem with the ordinance generally. Yeah, because they spend a day in each sector. And if they leave that sector and try to follow up on the toters constantly, they won't cover each sector as thoroughly as they do. And there are many times, I'll admit, they don't cover a sector that thoroughly if they run up against a bunch of violations in an area, one half of the sector. May not get to the other half until, roughly 2 weeks later.
Well, my question is, it says on the east area there were 65 warnings, and then when it says $50 tickets that same month, there was 0. Does that mean that all those 65 warnings were taken care of?
Either they've taken care of or they haven't gotten back to issue the initial $50 ticket.
Okay, thank you.
My question is concerning the rental registration. So we're going to go to electronic registration. Are we capturing any electronic contact information in any way? And the reason why I ask is because, the closest thing that I can think of to this is property tax. Property tax.
Okay.
And with your property taxes, if you elect to do electronic, you do get email reminder, you get email notification that is due in the same way that other people get mail notification that is due. So I was just wondering, if we go to 100% electronic, are we doing something to notify landlords other than publicly announcing that we're going electronic?
Yes. We've been doing that all along already. What happens is in November, early December, in particular, Kenny Harden will, using the Excella software, he will now use the CitizenServe software. He will, what we had been doing is from that software, printing up reminders to landlords who have registered their properties that now is time to re-register. What the game plan is, if we have emails, landlord emails, notices will be sent that time to re-register. They should be registered by January 1st. If you don't register by then, re-register by then, we have technically the ability to impose a $200 fine plus the cost of registration and all. But they will get notice. They always have, but it'll be streamlined.
But it will be an email notice?
If we have their email, that is the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Well, what'll happen is it'll be probably a letter, a standard letter, and it'll be attached to an email. It won't, because we're not going to write separate emails.
Right, okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Simon? All right, thank you. Puts us item number 14. Police Chief Chris Yates is here, and 14A is a resolution authorizing the application and acceptance of the Illinois Department of Transportation Sustained Traffic Enforcement Program STEP grant. I will make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I will need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on 14A's resolution? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig.
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Strebe.
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yes, thank you. Puts us to item 14B. We have a resolution authorizing the purchase of a police vehicle. I will make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on 14B's resolution?
Why are we buying this from Tilton?
Well, cars are sort of difficult at times, and the car that we're actually looking for is equipped with K9 equipment already. All of our K9 equipment, our cage and consoles and everything else, the specialized equipment, fit a 2019 or older. They've already got it. They purchased it. It had, I think it's got like 16,000 miles. They decided that they were going to discontinue that car for K9 purposes, and they were going to purchase another car. We need a K9 car. It's got, K9 equipment's very expensive. I think it's got over $25,000 worth of upfitting. So if you consider that, you're getting a car pretty cheap, and it's got 16,000 miles full of warranty, and it looks like new.
Brand new one would cost what? Approximately.
Brand new ones are state bid somewhere between, with no equipment, 44 to 48, 49,000.
0 to 70,000 with K9 if you approximately.
We're ultimately saving, I think, between 10 and 15,000 by doing it this way at no loss.
Any other questions for the chief? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Cooper,
Yes.
Pickering.
Yes.
Ludwig.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
York.
Yes.
Strebe.
Yes.
7 yes.
Yes, thank you. Puts us item 14C, items of information, and August 2023 offense data, and item 2 is 2023 year-to-date offense data. Chief?
Well, again, we're going in the direction we want to. I think for the year-to-date, we've decreased 10 out of 14 indices. And on the month for the year, comparing the last 3 years, I think we've decreased 11 out of 14 out of the categories. Again, the overall number, you're seeing a significant decrease in overall numbers, but that doesn't really tell a true story unless you break it down for each category. Again, you're never going to hear me come in unless we have something so significantly much lower and sustain it that way that you're going to see me celebrating. We're still moving and shaking different things that we need to, making adjustments where we need to, making assessments. We're really utilizing our intelligence-based policing concept as well as our community policing concept, and it seems when you mix those two together, you get the results you want, at least the direction you want. So it's to be continued. Any questions on any of the numbers? as far as the department goes, we've got, I think we got 4 officers at PTI, correct? Yeah, and they're only a couple weeks in, 2-3 weeks in. Out of the officers that have been in field training, 2 of the 4 are already solo or will be solo this week. The other 2 will be solo, and the only reason why they're a little bit behind was because of, I think there was a child born and some FTO transfers. So they'll all be on their own. They're superstars through their training, so we just hope that it continues in that trajectory. We've got 3 officers just starting their FTO. They're in the first phase of it. 4, 8, 11 officers are in training at some point or just getting out on their own. We're moving forward with the training center. I know Tara Barrett over at Public Works has been helping a lot with receiving invoices, sending them to me, as well as to Kaylee over at Finance, getting that set up, and that's through that grant. And also, we're moving forward with Friendly Town. I think we're waiting the largest bid, or for the largest project out there. That's going along well. We've been working, the police department along with Public Works, Finance, have been really collaborating on that. About ready to release the online reporting platform. That's going to save a lot of people a lot of time, as far as not having to wait for an officer for something they don't necessarily need an officer right away, but they need to get a report filed for whether it be insurance or just information. They can do that from their phone or a computer, and we'll be rolling that out, and we'll be advertising that pretty heavy to the community. And I think we've looked at if we have 1 report per shift, 3 shifts a day. And if you look at each report, by the time they get there, they get the information, get back on call for service, anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. Over a 1-year period, it's somewhere around $27,000 of man-hour savings. So it'd be quite well worth it. Plus, during that time of that they're not tied up in reports, that adds to the time of proactive patrolling and undedicated time. So that's something I'm looking forward to. I'd like to see what it's going to look like a year later, as far as once we have actual data that we can process and see where we're saving. But we're suspecting somewhere around that. That's about all I got.
Is there any questions for the chief? Not? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Puts us to item number 15, Public Works. Carl Carpenter, the Director. 15A is a resolution approving a Danville Mass Transit Title 6 program submission for the Federal Transit Administration. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on Resolution 15A? If not, roll call, please.
Vice Chairman Pickering?
Yes.
Alderman Ludwig?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
York?
Yes.
Cooper?
Yes.
Streebing?
Yes.
7 yes.
Yes, thank you. 15B, the resolution here is approving the lease of Winter Park Ball Fields concession and maintenance buildings to Danville Area Community College. I will make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on Resolution 15B? This is the one that we amended.
Amended to what?
When they made the mistake, when they put the resolution up, it was listed here as Danville Stadium Incorporated instead of the Danville Area Community College.
Okay.
So that's the only change. If not, yes. Carl?
Yeah, that was really the only mistake, and I just want everybody to understand this is, we were approached by DAC to do this. They're very interested in improving Winter Park ball fields.
Director, is your mic on?
There's no mics back there. We just put them at the front.
Anyway, that's all this is about, is we're gonna sign a lease with them. They will be in charge of both of the adult softball league, or softball fields, as well as the concession and the small pavilion that's located in between the two fields. And the way this lease is written is they are totally responsible for everything, other than if there's a busted sewer pipe or something like that, we'll take care of it. If the bricks fall off the building, we'll take care of it. Everything else is their responsibility to maintain.
Thank you, Director.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Is this still going to be open to the public or what?
Yes, but they would have to coordinate with the city in order to do other things to play on the field. And in addition, they've expressed to us that they're going to try to also cooperate with the city for adult softball leagues as well.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
So they're doing all the mowing and everything? Is that what you're
For
saying?
the ball fields, yes, they will be.
Year round?
Yes, they're gonna take care of it completely.
Okay.
Any other questions for the Director? If not, roll call on 15B's resolution.
Alderman Ludwig.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
York.
Yes.
Cooper.
Yes.
Pickering.
Yes.
Strebe.
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yes, carries, thank you. Puts us to 15C. We have a resolution awarding the contract for Phase 1 and 2. Bless you. HVAC upgrade at the Public Works Facility, bid number 731. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I will need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on resolution 15C? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Teague.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
York.
Yes.
Cooper.
Yes.
Pickering.
Yes.
Ludwig. Yes. Strebe.
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yes, thank you. Puts us to 15D. We have a resolution awarding a contract for RFP 730 for Danville Stadium roof. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I will need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on resolution 15D?
Is this storm damage or?
Yeah, this was partial storm damage. They came and assessed it. That's where you see that $162,000. So we had initial repairs, emergency repairs on the roof. They gave us a check for that, and then also to replace just the section of the roof that was damaged. But due to the age of the roof, we decided to go ahead and bid out to just replace the whole roof, so it's all the same. And so as you can see, the difference that we're paying to get the whole roof done is well worth the money to just get the whole roof done rather than just replace that section.
What is the difference? 76 is what I'm reading, 76,000, is that what it is?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Alderman Teague, you had a question?
It's already been answered.
Mine too. That was
Okay.
my question.
All right, no more questions then, and 15D's resolution, roll call, please.
Alderman Williams.
Yes.
York.
Yes.
Cooper.
Yes.
Pickering.
Yes.
Ludwig.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes.
Strebe.
Yes.
7 yes.
Yes, thank you. Items of information. Anybody have anything? Mayor, you got, we got. Steve.
Thank you. I haven't talked to the mayor about this yet, but if you recall, and you were at the Public Works meeting, I said we had a bid opening and had received no bids for our fleet insurance for next year. So in the meantime, Assured Partners has been working very hard to try and get some bids. And I'm going to have to, the insurance lapses Sunday, so we have to have this policy in effect by Monday. So therefore, I'm not going to be able to bring that to council prior to putting it into effect. But if we want bus service, we're going to have to do it. And with your permission, I'd like to just take it straight to council on Tuesday. Would that be all right?
I think that'd be fine.
I
that'll be
hope so.
fine.
Thank you.
I have to be. Yes, Logan.
We'll pull you over.
Yeah.
Since there's a press release already out on it, I'm getting several calls about it. I've got some pretty good news to share with the public. The city of Danville has been awarded a $399,000 blight removal grant. We're projecting, that's from IDA, the Illinois Housing Development Authority. So that is, again, for blight removal. We're projecting anywhere between 26 to 30 structures to be removed. This is just another prime example of why we have to have so many properties ready in the hopper for demolition. These need to be controlled by the city of Danville, and thankfully we do have enough to apply for this much funding and grant funds. So $399,000 for blight removal.
Pretty good deal.
Approximately how many houses or properties will this affect?
Yeah, we're projecting anywhere between 26 to 30. It depends on asbestos, really. That's the outlier on each cost projection.
And you've already identified the properties?
So yeah, I do have a listing, and it's going to pretty much take care of the rest of what the city of Danville owns, not what we have abatement orders for owning.
Okay. Thank you.
Residential, excuse me. Not, this is only residential properties, not
Right.
commercial.
Right.
Vice Chair?
I'd just like to personally thank Logan for all the work you did on this and your staff. Great job.
Thank you.
Okay, you're saying this is property the city owned. You know, we got a burned out structure there on William Street. What are we doing with that? The city doesn't own it. I mean, who's responsible for that? Can that be part of the 399?
So if there's a court abatement, I believe we can tear those structures down with these funds. But I'd have to see where that's at in our, does the city, are you aware if the city owns it or not?
No, I don't have a clue. I mean,
Okay.
it's over there by the Mach 1. I mean,
Again, there might be an abatement order for it in code, I'm sure there is. But yeah, those properties can be included in this.
okay, and we've got a bunch on Gilbert. You got a bunch of them on main thoroughfares here in town. Gilbert's a prime example. Does the city have to own them? I mean, I don't understand the process, I guess.
Oh, have to own the properties for this, to use these grant funds?
Well, I mean, these ones on Gilbert that I've noticed, and I'm sure everybody has, I mean, they've been abandoned. They look like crap for the last 10 years. What are we doing about those?
Yeah, so that we own or don't own?
I don't have a clue if we own them or not,
Okay,
Logan. I
so
really don't.
It has to go through the standard court procedures through the legal department, or if we've identified them as a good economic development residential property, that's typically the only time that we will go out and approach these residential properties from my side, unless there's a legal code case for these properties. But I can't answer it from my public.
Well, really, I hope they are abandoned.
So, just so you'll know, there are a group of about 4 on the west side of Gilbert Street, a couple of which we just acquired through the tax sale that we now have either control of or authority to demolish, and now we're just getting into a plan. I believe that Public Works is working on a bid for those and several others as well.
Yeah, because they've been there a while, and I mean.
Well, unfortunately, a lot of folks have had a lot of them for a while. For example, around the corner from me, 1 block away from my house, there's a house that's been burnt to the ground for the last 7 years. I mean, it's, you know.
Well, see, stuff like that needs to be cleaned up. I mean.
But the problem is, Alderman Cooper, we have over 1,000 houses that need demolished. So, you know, we prioritize number 1 on safety. Then number 2, we're working on main corridors and projects that we have. So, I mean, they're in the, you know, if we are aware of them, if they've gone through the legal process, we have the capacity to do them. It's just a matter of how many can we physically do and then how many can we bid out as well. So, again, we're very aggressive with it, far more than we have been in the past. But, you know, our highest year was 103 structures that we demolished in the last couple of years, and we're averaging between 60 and 80 a year. So that's compared to 15 or so 5 years ago per year. So we're making progress, but there's only so much that you can do given the resources that we have.
I understand that. Am I to assume that the city has a program to maybe have somebody do something with property before it gets to that stage?
Absolutely. So, I mean, we have code enforcement.
If somebody wants to buy the property or rehab it or whatever.
If somebody wants to buy property that is rehabable, capable of rehabilitating, somebody has to want to buy it. I mean, and there are a lot of people who just are not going to buy a falling down property that they think they can rehab. We have some of that in the city, and then they come and they actually see the property and they just walk away from it. You know, there's occasionally people will rehab, but it takes a lot of money to rehab the condition of these houses. And as we talked about, you know, I appreciate you visiting me and asking certain questions about this. One of the bottlenecks is that we get abatement orders on a lot of buildings that need to be demolished. But there's a bottleneck because, as the mayor pointed out, we have only so many staff members capable of doing that and so much money to allocate to that. 1 year, as the mayor indicated, I thought it was 106, but I guess it's 103. But then the following year, we took down, or had to take down, 1315 Factory Street, which is a huge commercial building, and that cost $158,000 to do that, and that obviously drained a lot of our demo budget. But again, we only have so many people who can do the demos and so much equipment to do the demos, and these people do other things as well, especially with the storm cleanup and that kind of thing. So all we can do, you know, unless you all, you know, and this is an issue for the council, I mean, it's not a legal issue, it's a monetary issue, and if you all want to vote more money to hire more people and to buy more equipment, I mean, it's your call, but of course then that money comes out of some other project or budget. And so you all have to balance your priorities. That's not a legal issue. I believe we're doing our end. It takes a while for these cases to work through city court. The owner gets a warning, and if they don't do anything, and most of them don't, then they get a citation, and they have to appear in court, and they appear somewhere between 30 and 45 days after the citation is served. That's a matter of law in our ordinance. Then they can enter a plea agreement, and then if they do, they're given so many days to do the demo, and if they don't, we get the authority. And then we can do it, assuming we have the ability in terms of staff availability and equipment, money, to do it. What the mayor and Public Works has been doing recently is looking at where we have authority to demo, and rather than doing one over here and another one across town and then going way up north and coming south, they're trying to coordinate these demos so they can, you know, go into one area and do 2, 3, 4 and level these houses one right after the other. It's more efficient. Obviously, it's less costly than trying to demo the same number scattered all over. So we're trying all different kinds of things to move this along, but it all ultimately comes down to money.
Well, I understand that.
And it's not cheap.
I understand that, but I mean, if we see a building that's going to be, going bad, okay, let's.
Heading towards demo, right? What do we do?
Is there any incentive for a person to go in there, and can the city give them any incentive to go in and rehab it before we start doing everything?
You know, if it's rehabable within reason.
Is there an incentive for that person to rehab that house if it's within reason?
It depends on what their economic circumstances are. It depends on what needs to be done. But every year we select houses for through the block grant program, CDBG, Community Block Grant Program. They get the owner gets, if they're living in it, gets a certain number of dollars to fix the siding, to fix the roof, to fix the windows. But again, and that's federal money, but we only have so many dollars in that program that the feds give us. And Logan can tell you the average number of houses or grants we give out a year and the size of the grant, because he manages that.
Yeah, so I think what you're referring to is not owner-occupied properties.
Right.
But yeah, we do around 15 to 20, depending on the cost of each year, home owner-occupied rehabs. But you do bring up a good point that we'll have to discuss probably at some other time, is what's the tipping point between blight removal to home rehabilitation incentives.
Right, and for some type of incentive we can offer, I think we need to be looking at that.
Yeah.
You know, if we're waiving their real estate taxes or waiving all fees or whatever.
And I think to make a really long story short, because we do have quite a bit of data and we're still studying it in our housing inventory. Right now, the data analysis that we have is we have way too many structures in town. As soon as we get that number substantially lower, I think we can start to consider providing incentives, first-time home buyer incentives, things like that. But right now, we need to re-densify, I think, the city of Danville. Simply, this is a very complicated topic, obviously. And then look at incentivizing home rehabilitations. We're just not seeing very many, since I manage the building safety division, I get to see all the permits that come through. We're not seeing very many blighted properties, the ones that you're referring to, that are the residents or even out-of-towners, they're not wanting to invest a whole lot of dollars into these properties. It's typically those that want to put a couple of $1,000s, if that, into these homes and either flip them or rent them to where they're not even salvageable. We're not seeing the big-time permit orders for these properties at this point in time. We want our city to get there, but it's just not happening right now.
It just seems like a demolition process that the city's doing. We're running a business doing that. We're tearing down a lot of stuff, so.
We have 2,500 more houses than we have people to live in them.
That's what I was going to ask.
1,000 of which need demolished.
See, and we got to find a way to stop that. I hope there is one. I don't know if there's one feasible or not.
I mean, our code enforcement is much more aggressive than it's ever been, and we're starting to halt a lot of things and get people to clean up stuff that they haven't in the past, so that we don't get to this point. The problem was, for a long time, unfortunately, code enforcement didn't have the proper support that it needed to get things accomplished, and now they do.
I said something about a month or so ago to Mr. Rui about a problem we had over here at the old Tuna Bar. We had Tent City in the back, and I don't know how many people were living inside of it. And I still don't know that if we own it or what the deal is, but Tent City's gone. And the only concern I have is because over here at the Masonic Temple, we're starting up with our fall dyslexia classrooms with our teachers and students. And we've had a problem all summer long with them hanging around the building and everything else. So I asked them to tear down the back part of it. Well, Tent City disappeared, so I don't know where the building stands to be demolished or when it's going to be demolished, but there's 2 buildings there that need to go.
Where was this located? I missed that.
It's right down the street here.
It's behind what was most recently probably called Studio 25. I don't
gotcha.
know what else
Gotcha.
it used to be back in the day. What I can tell you is in the resolution that we passed to set aside money for Brzee Tower, it says in that resolution, if there's extra money after the demolition of that there are certain buildings that would be focused on. Those 2 buildings are 2 of them. The other one that we own next to DC Fitness downtown, because of the nature of it, it's very difficult to demolish because you have to try to protect and support other property, and then also the former dry cleaners that you see off of Main Street that's crumbling between Washington and Hazel. So if there's extra money, those will be a part of that, and we're also waiting on other possible demolition money through our Congresswoman Kelly and other means. So
Because all I want them to do is take out what used to be the beer garden, because it's all fenced in. If you take care of that, then you didn't have the tents and everything else that nobody could see from the alley. And of course, then they've got inside the building, which is probably, the roof is probably gone, but I figured we could board it back up, but the beer garden would be gone and they had no place to hide, but they haven't been back, so.
Still think if we could maybe put some type of incentive package, maybe these people could do something with it, at least look at it. I mean,
One of the things you all did was we had 3, up till, 7, 8 months ago, we had 3 inspectors. From the time I started here until then. But we had one inspector a while back who was not very active, and he was replaced with a gentleman who was even less active. We now have 4 inspectors, thanks thanks to you all for passing a budget, allowing us to increase that. And we hired 2 new inspectors, months and months ago, who are just cranking. The only delay or downtime they've had is working on this transition to citizenship. But we've got 4 highly functioning inspectors burying my legal assistants in cases and all. And unfortunately, when you have 60, 65 cases going to city court on a day, in an afternoon, that's a lot of cases, especially if they all show up. A lot of times they don't. And you're familiar with that in small claims court. But these 4 people, Brandon, Dan, Rick, and Kenny, are just cranking. We've got a top-notch crew. I'm very proud of them. Top-notch crew doing what they should be doing, where they should be doing it. And I think a lot of people may think the city's not doing much with blight reduction. These guys are spearheading it, and they are writing tickets like crazy. I should call them citations like crazy.
Anything else from anybody? Yes, Ms. Teague.
I just want to echo what Alderman Cooper is saying as it relates to incentives, because I feel like, probably to his point, which is, yes, we're eliminating a great bit of blight, which is a good thing, but we're not, it doesn't appear that we're doing a whole lot to prevent blight. And you have structures that are blighted that also, I would say, 5-10 years ago weren't, and because you can only do 15 or 20 through CDBG, and I know you have a waiting list for CDBG, then what ends up happening is if somebody has been on that waiting list, and God forbid another derecho comes through, or a tornado, or any other major storm, now you have a structure that was probably rehabable 5 or 10 years ago that is no longer rehabable because damage to the roof and the owner can't afford to replace it, and they might have been on the list. And now we have a structure that is going to end up on the blight list when it could have been improved several years ago. So I personally love the idea of taking a 2-pronged approach to what we do with blight. Yes, we need to continue to eliminate blight, but we also need to do something to prevent blight.
Also, Mr. Chairman, also as well as, so we said that we have about 30, 36 homes to be demoed. I'm sure that all aldermen would like to see those blighted homes removed out of our wards. Is there a list that we can see? And
yeah, I can provide that list. I'll go ahead and send it to the clerk and have her circulate it to the alderman.
Yeah, okay, because I have one a homeowner, have one that's next door to them. They got all kind of animals, groundhogs, raccoons, and everything is in and out of the house. And the homeowner mows the grass all the way up to the house, but it's so infested that he's afraid to kind of go any closer to the home.
Yeah, and again, and it's for this grant, it's got to be city owned, and that may or may not be. But if any alderman has a question, send me the address. I'll look up where it's at in code, or look at the demo schedule and when it's proposed to hit the ground. It's not a big deal.
Anybody else have any more questions? Items of information? Okay, puts us to item number 16, which is closed session. I don't think there's a need for that this evening. Item number 17, items of information, is a discussion regarding the amendment of Chapter 150 zoning code on the medicinal adult use cannabis. And I think they said it's in your Dropbox, and he sent everybody a copy of both items at the dais when you sit down. So we're just going to discuss this, I guess, this evening.
Give it a brief overview.
Yes.
Okay. So it's been a couple of months now, month or two, since the alderman has tasked me with opening the book on the cannabis ordinance. Mostly this discussion has been derived from dispensary petitions, but we went ahead and took an overall look of the entire ordinance. They all basically state the same thing. So what you have in front of you are two items. Some is some data, and one is the current ordinance in its strike-through and added language form. There's essentially only 3 changes to the ordinance. One is highlighted on the first page. It is providing a description on how property lines or property uses are to be measured in this ordinance. I don't think I need to expand on why we did that very much. The other is throughout each of the different types of cannabis licenses, the initial dispensary ordinance had this language where the facility may not be located in a dwelling unit or within 2,640 feet, 1/2 mile of a property from those residential zoning districts, essentially. That was throughout all of the cannabis uses throughout our ordinance. So I put a strike through that just for discussion purposes. And then finally, on the last 2 pages, you'll see the table of uses just for the cannabis uses. The strike through on the first table of use page is for medical cannabis dispensary strike through. We already have that covered in the section directly below that, so it's just being repetitive. This is just us cleaning up the table of uses. And then also you'll see on the second page of the table of uses that we've added special use permit letters to each of the cannabis lines. Okay, so this draft is pretty simple. Amongst all of the language I just spoke there, it's removing the restriction of placing dispensaries on Lynch Road and Eastgate Drive, and allowing the review process of a special use permit to regulate these dispensaries in their subject zoning districts they're allowed in the table of uses. Okay, so they're going to get the same review process that they're getting for Lynch Road and Eastgate Drive that they've been for the 4 or 5 that this council has heard. It's just citywide. Okay, so with this ordinance in this form, I brought forward some data from other communities. I compared 5 other communities that were the closest to us that have and allowed cannabis dispensaries, infusers, cultivation centers, etc. But since most of the talk has been about dispensaries, I just brought up the dispensary regulations. So you can see on this Excel sheet, basically all of them except for Champaign and Urbana did the special use permit or a conditional use permit, which is the same thing as special use. And then I really wanted to guide some discussion towards what does it look like for distance from childcare, schools, daycares, things like that. It's all over the board. Only one community had regulation for a distance from place of worship, which is 500 feet. And then just to derive discussion for should the city of Danville have a regulation from residential uses or zoning districts. I wanted to see what other communities were doing. There was only one other community that I could find of these 5 that had a regulation from residential zoning districts, and it was only 250 feet, which is a typical standard residential lot in between dispensary.
But we're going to still stick with the 2640?
For discussion purposes, I've struck it out in this ordinance tonight.
Okay.
That's just what we have listed. Finally, the complete 180 away from this draft is the city of Danville limiting the amount of dispensaries. From the discussion we had when it was requested to open the book, it was really, we need to make a decision. The city council had just denied 2 dispensary applications, I believe. So is it just going to be switching it to citywide special use permit review? Or are we going to limit, the city council going to limit how many cannabis dispensaries are going to be allowed in the city of Danville? Or anything in between, that's up to you. So that's what I put forward for discussion tonight, and we can go from there.
I just want to say, as a point of information, as it relates to the number, the state has allotted, will continue to allot whatever the state wants to allot to our BLS region. We determine how many go in Danville. That does not mean we determine how many go in Danville area. The state makes that decision. And the state has already decided, we already had the one medical. There were 3 that were licensed that we have already heard. There is another one. There was a special lottery that just happened in the last month or so. There will be another one in that. There could be more after that, because originally in 2020, there was only supposed to be 1 additional. But as a result of lawsuits and legislative action and administrative action, things have changed. And they could change at any point and at any time whenever the state decides that's what they want to do. So I said all that to say, what we have on our books now was written based on medicinal use and medicinal use alone, because I don't believe at that time anybody anticipated that recreational use was going to be codified and that then recreational use was going to come to our doorsteps. But it has, and we've been reactionary in our approach to that. But we need to be proactive to know, because we've already seen that the state is doing things that we're having to deal with, and that could continue to happen. And so I just want to put that out there, because I know that we're having conversation about what's in our ordinances, but what's in our ordinances is affected by the state decisions.
Yes.
Okay, several, I guess. State issues, how many you can have in a certain area? How many does Vermilion County or Danville?
Danville area is up, I believe we counted them, it was 4. Yeah.
I think we'll be at 5 with
We'll be
this
at
new
5.
additional one.
If you count the Sunnyside, yes, 5. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, 5. And then all money we receive tax-wise, that's going straight into the police and fire pension, right?
That's correct.
Do we know the dollar amount on that, or can that even be disclosed?
We can't say it publicly, because then it would be disclosing the taxes that one business is paying, but I can tell you that it's substantial.
Would it be able to be this is based on what you just said, when the other one becomes active, we would,
I think we have to have at least 3.
before we could talk about the numbers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because then you couldn't attribute it, for example, to Sunnyside or 7 Point or whoever else might come.
Okay.
Okay, what'd you just ask?
He said we can't talk about it because there's only one. So basically, you're disclosing that business's revenue.
Oh, okay.
So we can talk about it once there's 3, because then you're not disclosing any individual business's revenue.
You can lump it together, and you just got to figure out what.
Or guess.
Or guess.
Right.
Yes. And that was done with the state 3 or 4 years ago. So you'll never find out. I mean, you can find out, but not publicly. No.
Well, that's fine. You know, and I pursued having Logan put this together, because I went to the zoning committee on that one where they said they voted against it. The reason they voted against it, they said there was going to be 3 out in that area, and I'll guarantee you, any other cannabis place tries to go out there, they're going to vote it down. And I think we as a city, or as 14 or whatever, have got to make a decision whether we're going to allow this in this town or not. Because obviously it's not going out there on Lynch. I pretty much, I mean, whether we open this up, you know, we've got this written down now, we can vote it against it. It's a special use. So, I mean, if we don't want that in that certain location, we can still vote against it. It's pretty much what I wanted written up was, and I think we're close to it, is sort of like a liquor store ordinance. Isn't that pretty much what we modeled?
Yeah, there's just a couple of distance requirements that are different, to my understanding, yeah.
But still, we're not saying, yeah, we're going to open this all up to the city, when we still can say yes or no, we're going to allow it or not.
See,
For those of you who aren't familiar, a special use permit is voted on by the zoning commission, and then it's voted on by the city council. So essentially what would happen, instead of saying that they can only go in one certain area, they would be open to different districts, It would go through the zoning commission and the zoning process like it normally does, then it would come to you for a vote as well, which is what Alderman Cooper's.
And you have to have a bigger majority in order to overpass theirs, but just like I asked Kronk about this a few months back, because it wasn't our fault. It's the companies that all wanted to go out to Lynch Road.
But it is our fault because of the
Yes,
2640.
Yes, you're right. It was because we didn't change things like we should have.
Because it was, yeah, because where else can you be a half a mile from
Yeah,
residential?
yeah, yep.
Yep.
It was written to force people to Lynch Road. Because everywhere else, every other business area in town is near residential.
That's what the alderman at that time wanted, was it not to be anywhere near.
Well, we didn't think we was gonna have that many coming in.
Right, but then that's what I said in the beginning, that it was based on medicinal. And that was the only thing at that time.
It wasn't based on medicinal, it was based on Sunnyside coming, there only being one.
No, but we were told that.
There was gonna be medicinal.
And it wasn't.
And that's not Sunnyside's fault,
That's not
just
their
for the
fault.
record, right?
That's state.
Right.
But still, if we approve this ordinance, it's not saying we're going to get all 7 of them in this town. We're not doing that, or 5 or whatever. It's not saying we're going to do
But
that.
one of them is already in Tilton, so
That's right.
really, we only have the possibility for 2 more at this time.
At this time, because that could change overnight or in 6
Right.
months.
Right.
We
But
could have,
still,
we
it
could
could-
have another 2 coming our way.
But Joe Blow say they may want a place on Main Street, and the county goes, no, we don't want that there, and we're not going to approve it. I mean, we still got the approval to do it or not. And I think if we don't change it,
We're gonna lose opportunities.
we're just losing everything there. And the thing I like about it is all the revenue, or our revenue from the city standpoint, is going straight to the police and fire. And if there's, I don't know what we're funded at. What are we, 30, 40%?
They're different. One is close to 30%, I think one is closer to 40.
And is that mandated, we got to reach a certain level within a few years or not?
90% by 2040.
By 2040, and that's probably going to be extended more than likely, wouldn't you think?
I don't know, but if we stay the course, we can be 100% funded by then.
I would say it will, because the state can't take care of their own house, let alone tell us what to do. So
I agree, but still, it's additional revenue we can throw into the police and fire pension. And you know, as a goal of me or myself on this council is I'd like to eliminate that pension fee from every homeowner in this town, and this could help doing that if we get the additional businesses here. You know, I like Family Video, I wouldn't really have a problem with one of these things going in that Family Video up there on North Vermillion, but you know, I just want to let people know that we're eligible for it, and whether we, you know, that's all we're doing.
Well, I know it's disappointing to some, but I absolutely support this. That's why I voted for the zoning for the last petition that we had, because I feel that if we're going to, if we said, no, we're not going to sell cannabis in this community, then it would make sense for us to limit it. But if we're not going to, if we're going to allow it, which we've already decided we will, then I think we should allow more. Now, I don't think anybody wants 10. I don't want 10. I don't want 20. That would be obscene, right? But I don't think 4 is unreasonable for a community our
But
size.
I really don't think we need to put a number on it.
Oh, no, I'm not suggesting that we put a number on
right.
it. But what I'm saying is, I'm not for an inordinate number of cannabis places, but to have more here, I don't think is unreasonable.
Right, and I still think if
And I
you
support
model it
that.
after a liquor ordinance like we've got, we've got control where it's gonna be located.
Right.
I mean, if you get a neighborhood that doesn't want it, more than likely, we're not gonna support it, and it having to pass. So.
Well, you remember we fought with the previous mayor when we had the problem up there with tearing the property down. He wanted to change the ordinance for so many he wanted to change the footage because the school owned some property there, and we turned him down. That was able to let the pharmacy that used to be on Route 1 get tore down.
I've slept in that.
And reutilize the property, because he was against it. He tried this move for putting a larger area out there, and we all turned it down.
And we still have that authority to do that.
We still do, yes.
I just think right now, a cannabis place would not look in this town.
Yeah.
You know, the two of them been refused, and zoning's not going to approve
I
one
mean,
out there.
look at all the phone calls Logan and the mayor probably got from the vape shop that was gonna go in by the high school that was legal. We couldn't do anything about it, so we can do something about this.
Yeah, that's why I approve this change, and I'm glad, Logan, you did it.
Thank you, Logan.
So if it be, I would and suggest that we, because this is something that could be contentious, that we take the proposed changes to Public Works as well. And if it seems reasonable, then we bring the final version to you all next month at Public Services to be considered at the full city council at that time.
I agree.
Yep, sounds good.
And if you have any other suggestions or things that you think of along the way that you think we need to address or adjust, make sure you let us know.
Yeah, because all this stuff's negotiable. I mean,
Yes. Yeah. So does anybody else have any items of information or anything for the good of the cause? If not, I think have everything on agenda taken care of. I'll need a motion and a second for adjournment.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Good meeting.
You too, you take care now. Good to see you. Yeah, congratulations again.